A service dog wouldn't stop barking at a woman carrying a baby through the airport, leaving its handler embarrassed and drawing annoyed stares from travelers. But when the officer noticed the infant hadn't moved at all, everything changed, and what they uncovered next left the entire terminal frozen in shock. Now, before we get into today's story, drop a comment below telling us where in the world you're watching from. And if you love extraordinary police dog stories like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next. The blizzard outside Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport had transformed the normally efficient Terminal D into a scene of controlled chaos. Flight cancellations scrolled endlessly across departure boards as stranded travelers crowded every available seat, their frustrations hanging in the air as tangibly as the scent of overpriced coffee and anxiety. Officer Melissa Rodriguez adjusted her uniform collar, still warm from the employee cafeteria, where she'd grabbed a quick lunch between security sweeps. At her side, Luna padded silently, her German Shepherd's posture perfectly professional despite the surrounding tumult. Unlike most canine units that specialized in drug or explosive detection, Luna had been specifically trained in human behavior assessment, a rare skill set that had proven invaluable in identifying potential security threats before they materialized. They'd nearly reached the international baggage claim when Rodriguez felt the first subtle change in Luna's demeanor. A slight stiffening in her gait, ears shifting forward like radar dishes homing in on a distant signal. The tension in Luna's body was building, a subtle whine beginning in her throat. This wasn't Luna's standard alert behavior for potential security threats. This was something different, something Rodriguez had only witnessed once before. Luna's whine deepened, her body now rigid with alertness. Rodriguez frowned, trying to make sense of her partner's behavior. A businessman with suspicious bulges in his oversized luggage would have seemed the obvious focus of a security dog's attention. Instead, Luna's intensity fixed unwaveringly on a well-dressed woman in her 30s, designer travel wear impeccable despite the day's chaos, gently rocking a sleeping infant in her arms. Luna's alertness escalated to a low growl that vibrated through her body. Travelers nearby began shifting away nervously, creating an expanding circle of space around them. "Ma'am, is your dog okay?" The airport security supervisor Martinez approached with a concerned frown. "We're already dealing with enough tension today with all these cancellations." Rodriguez was about to respond when Luna's behavior escalated dramatically. The growl transformed into a series of sharp, authoritative barks that echoed through the terminal. Phones came up immediately, passengers filming the disruption as Rodriguez felt her professional composure slipping. "Luna, stand down," she ordered more firmly, embarrassment flooding her face as the barking continued. But beneath the embarrassment came a creeping certainty. This wasn't a false alarm or an overwhelmed reaction to the crowd. This specific pattern of behavior, this intensity of focus on a woman and child, Rodriguez had seen it exactly once before, on the case that had defined both their careers. Across the terminal, the well-dressed woman's expression morphed from confused to alarmed. She clutched the sleeping baby closer to her chest, her eyes darting toward the nearest exit as Luna's barking grew more insistent with each passing second. "I'm so sorry about this," Rodriguez said, approaching the woman with her most reassuring smile, while maintaining firm control of Luna's leash. The German Shepherd continued to strain forward, her barking replaced by intense focus and the occasional high-pitched whine that Rodriguez recognized as Luna's signal for something profoundly wrong. "She's normally extremely well-behaved. I don't know what's gotten into her." The woman shifted the sleeping baby higher against her shoulder, her manicured hand protectively cradling the infant's head. "It's fine," she said, her voice carrying a slight tremor beneath its polished tone. "But I need to get to my gate. We've already been delayed for hours." Rodriguez noticed that, despite the woman's words, she was backing away slowly, creating more distance between herself and Luna. The baby remained motionless throughout the commotion, unnaturally still, despite the loud barking that had just subsided. "Which flight are you catching?" Rodriguez asked, keeping her tone conversational, while her trained eye caught subtle inconsistencies. The woman's designer luggage was scuffed in ways inconsistent with normal travel wear, and though she wore a wedding ring, there was no indent in her finger suggesting long-term wear. American Airlines to Chicago, then connecting to Denver, the woman replied quickly. Too quickly. My husband is waiting for us. Luna had shifted into a behavior pattern that Rodriguez had only observed during specialized training, a rhythmic movement between focusing on the woman's face and the baby, then back again, not alerting to contraband or weapons, but to the relationship itself. Your baby is sleeping soundly through all this, Rodriguez observed, nodding toward the infant who hadn't stirred, flinched, or reacted at all to the previous barking. How old? 8 months, the woman answered, then immediately corrected herself. I mean, almost 9 months now. Her free hand fluttered nervously to the designer scarf around her neck. Please, my gate. I understand, Rodriguez nodded, making a show of checking her watch. American to Chicago, you said. That's interesting because all American flights to Chicago were canceled 2 hours ago due to the storm. They made an announcement. The woman's composure fractured momentarily, her eyes widening before she regained control. I meant United. It's been such a long day, I'm getting confused with all the changes. Would you mind if I just check your travel documents? With all the confusion today, we're helping passengers confirm their new flight information, Rodriguez said, positioning herself subtly to block the nearest exit. That won't be necessary, the woman said, her voice hardening as she took another step backward. We're already late. The baby hasn't moved at all during this entire interaction, Rodriguez observed quietly. Not even a fidget during Luna's barking. Most babies would at least stir. For the briefest moment, something cold flickered behind the woman's eyes. She's a good sleeper. Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some identification and the baby's travel documents, Rodriguez said, no longer asking. It's standard procedure when traveling with infants. Rodriguez guided the woman to a quieter area near a service corridor, away from the crowds of stranded passengers, but still within view of security cameras. Luna remained in alert position, her focus unwavering as the woman awkwardly maneuvered to retrieve identification while balancing the still motionless infant. My wallet should be right here, the woman muttered, digging through an expensive leather handbag that seemed too new to match her claimed travel history. I'm Catherine Winters, and this is my daughter, Emma. Rodriguez noted the slight hesitation before the baby's name, filing it away mentally alongside other inconsistencies. When the woman finally produced a driver's license, Rodriguez examined it carefully. Ohio license issued 14 months ago, yet no visible wear, despite supposedly being carried daily. The photo matched, but something about the holographic security features didn't catch the light quite right. And do you have Emma's birth certificate or passport? All minors need identification for air travel, Rodriguez said, maintaining her professional demeanor while radioing quietly for a secondary officer to join them. It's in my checked luggage, Catherine replied too quickly. The airline said it wasn't necessary to keep it with me since she's an infant. Officer Dawkins arrived, a veteran with 20 years' experience, who took in the situation with a quick glance at Rodriguez's subtle hand signal. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with us to the security office where we can sort this out more comfortably, Dawkins said with practiced authority. Standard procedure when there are questions about documentation. The baby, Emma, if that was really her name, still hadn't moved beyond shallow breathing. No startles, no shifts in position. None of the normal fidgeting even sleeping infants typically display. Rodriguez's concern deepened. Is there something wrong with the baby? She asked directly, watching Catherine's reaction closely. She's just a good sleeper, Catherine repeated, but her eyes darted away. She had a long night. As they walked toward the security office, Rodriguez's mind flashed back to the case that had first revealed Luna's extraordinary abilities. Luna had been found in an apartment, a year-old German Shepherd mix, standing guard over the body of a 1-year-old girl. The mother lay nearby, both victims of what appeared to be a home invasion gone horribly wrong. What had shocked the responding officers wasn't just the dog's protective stance over the dead child, but her refusal to leave even days later. When animal control had finally managed to remove her, they discovered she'd sustained wounds trying to defend the family, evidence she'd fought the attacker despite being severely outmatched. Most dogs would have been considered too traumatized for service work after such an experience, but something about Luna's behavior during evaluation had caught the attention of the Canine Training Division. Her hypervigilance around children, initially considered a potential liability, was eventually recognized as an extraordinary sensitivity that could be channeled into specialized training. "I'd like to request a medical check for the baby," Rodriguez said to Dawkins, keeping her voice low. She hasn't moved or responded normally this entire time. Catherine's composure cracked visibly. "That's ridiculous. You can't just demand to medically examine my child based on your dog's behavior. This is harassment." Luna's reaction to the woman's raised voice was telling. Rather than becoming more alert to the perceived threat as most service dogs would, she positioned herself closer to the baby, as if trying to shield the infant from the woman claiming to be her mother. "Miss Winters, we have reason for concern," Rodriguez said firmly. "The baby's lack of response to external stimuli is unusual. We're requesting a welfare check, which is within our authority when we have reasonable suspicion a minor may be in distress." The arrival of the airport medical team temporarily interrupted the questioning. As a paramedic gently examined the still unresponsive infant, Rodriguez stepped aside with Dawkins to brief him more fully on her suspicions. Luna remained positioned near the baby, her behavior now a textbook display of protective vigilance rather than alert signaling. The paramedic's voice pulled Rodriguez back to the present. "This child has been sedated," she reported with professional urgency. "Respirations are depressed, pupils sluggish. We need to get her to emergency care immediately." Catherine Winters, if that was her real name, lunged suddenly for the door, but Luna was faster, positioning herself firmly in the woman's path without aggression, but with unmistakable purpose. "Ms. Winters, you're being detained pending investigation," Rodriguez stated formally, as Dawkins moved to secure the increasingly agitated woman. "The infant is being taken for emergency medical evaluation, and we're going to have a lot of questions for you." Detective Harmon, from Dallas PD's Special Victims Unit, arrived within the hour, his weathered face grave as he reviewed the preliminary reports. "The woman's real name is Jessica Morris," he explained, showing Rodriguez a file on his tablet. "Released 3 weeks ago from Lakewood Psychiatric Hospital after a 6-month involuntary commitment." The photo matched their detainee, though in the file, Jessica appeared disheveled and vacant-eyed, a stark contrast to the polished facade she'd presented at the airport. "What was she in for?" Rodriguez asked, watching as Luna maintained her vigilant position near the baby's hospital bed. "Severe postpartum psychosis following the death of her infant son from SIDS 6 months ago," Harmon replied. "She was found trying to take a baby from a grocery store parking lot, claiming it was her child. The doctors thought she was responding well to treatment, but clearly..." He gestured toward the emergency room. "And the baby? Do we know who she is?" Harmon nodded. "Her name is Sophia Mills, 8 months old. Reported missing from her home in Austin yesterday. The mother is Jessica's sister, Claire Mills. She's flying in now. Should be here within the hour." Rodriguez processed this information, the pieces fitting together with grim logic. So Jessica took her sister's baby, sedated her to keep her quiet during travel, and was attempting to flee the state? "That's our working theory," Harmon confirmed, though there are still unanswered questions. Jessica doesn't drive and had no access to funds. Someone helped her get to Austin, take the baby, and make it to DFW with fake documents. Luna's ears suddenly perked up, her attention shifting toward the treatment room entrance. Rodriguez had learned to trust these subtle alerts. Her partner had detected something significant. "What is it, girl?" she murmured, following Luna's gaze to where a man in a crisp suit was speaking with the charge nurse, his hospital ID badge prominently displayed. "That's Dr. Nathan Chambers," Harmon explained, noticing Luna's reaction. "Jessica's psychiatrist from Lakewood. He called it in when he heard she'd been detained. Says he's concerned about her mental state during questioning." Luna's posture had changed dramatically. The relaxed vigilance replaced by rigid alertness, the same behavior she'd displayed toward Jessica earlier. Rodriguez had worked with Luna long enough to recognize the pattern. Her partner had identified another threat. In the secure interview room, Jessica Morris looked nothing like the confident woman from the airport. Her designer clothes were rumpled, makeup smeared from crying, all pretense stripped away by the reality of her situation. "I just wanted him back," she whispered when Rodriguez entered, not looking up. "They told me he was gone, but mothers know. We always know." "You're talking about your son," Rodriguez said gently, taking the seat across from her. "The one who died." Jessica's gaze snapped up, suddenly fierce. "He didn't die. That's what they want everyone to believe. Nathan showed me the truth. How they take babies from mothers they deem unfit and place them with more suitable families. My sister's baby, she looks just like my Charlie. It can't be a coincidence." "Nathan," Rodriguez prompted. "You mean Dr. Chambers?" "He understands," Jessica continued, her words tumbling out faster. "He's seen it happen to other mothers too. The system declaring them unstable, taking their children, faking deaths. He helped me see that Sophia is really Charlie. They just gave him to my sister when they took him from me." Rodriguez maintained a compassionate expression while mentally connecting the disturbing dots. "And Dr. Chambers helped you get to Austin? Helped you take Sophia?" Jessica nodded, a childlike trust in her eyes. "He said once we were far away, he could prove it was Charlie with DNA tests, that we'd be a family again." "Did he give you the medication for Sophia to keep her quiet during travel?" "Just baby Benadryl," Jessica replied defensively. "He's a doctor. He gave me the right dose. Said it would make the transition easier for Charlie, for Sophia, until she remembered me." The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. Rodriguez excused herself, finding Harmon in the hallway and briefing him quickly on Jessica's statements. A commotion from the direction of the pediatric unit interrupted them. Raised voices, the sound of equipment crashing to the floor. They rushed back to find hospital security attempting to restrain Dr. Chambers, who had somehow gained access to Sophia's treatment room despite protocols. Luna stood between the doctor and the infant's bed, her posture defensive but controlled, exactly as she'd been trained. "This is outrageous," Chambers shouted, his professional demeanor cracking. "I'm this child's doctor. I have every right to examine her." As security escorted Chambers from the room, Rodriguez noticed him slip something into his pocket, a small vial that glinted under the hospital lights. Luna's focused attention on that same pocket confirmed her suspicion. "Detective, I believe Dr. Chambers just attempted to take a DNA sample from Sophia," Rodriguez said quietly to Harmon. "If he's been manipulating Jessica's delusions..." The surveillance footage from Jessica's room at Lakewood, obtained via emergency warrant, played on the large screen in Dallas PD's Special Victims Unit. The timestamp showed 2:14 a.m., 3 nights before Sophia's abduction. In the grainy video, Dr. Chambers sat beside Jessica's bed speaking in low tones as he showed her something on a tablet. "He's programming her," the FBI consultant explained, pausing the footage, "using her delusions about her son to manipulate her into believing her niece is actually her child. Classic exploitation of a vulnerable subject." Claire Mills, who'd been quietly providing background information while hospital staff cared for Sophia nearby, spoke up. "Jessica told me once that Nathan said he understood her pain because he'd lost a child too, a son taken by the system in an unjust custody battle." Rodriguez felt the pieces clicking together, matching the pattern Luna had somehow detected from the beginning. He's recreating his own trauma through these women, she realized, using them to recover what he believes was taken from him. The storage facility on the outskirts of Dallas stood stark against the fading daylight, rows of identical orange doors lining concrete corridors. Unit 3118, rented under a shell company, traced back to Chambers, was secured with both a digital lock and heavy padlock. The search warrant had been expedited based on the mounting evidence, but Luna's behavior suggested whatever lay beyond that door was worse than they'd anticipated. When the lock finally yielded with a metallic click, Luna stepped back, positioning herself beside Rodriguez, as if seeking reassurance before facing whatever lay within. The storage unit contained no people, no immediate threats, but what it revealed was perhaps more disturbing for its methodical organization. One wall was covered with photographs and news clippings and medical records, all relating to infants and young children. Another held medical equipment, including sedatives identical to those used on Sophia. But most disturbing was the center of the room, where a nursery had been meticulously assembled: crib, changing table, rocking chair, all arranged as if waiting for a child. Luna moved carefully through the space, her training allowing her to navigate without disturbing evidence. She stopped at a filing cabinet in the corner, alerting with the specific pattern she used for documents of interest. Inside, they found what appeared to be Chambers' private case files, detailed psychological profiles of dozens of women who had lost children, all patients at various institutions where he'd worked over the years. Each file contained annotations about susceptibility to reconditioning and potential for maternal reclamation project. Luna suddenly gave a sharp alert bark, the specific signal she'd been trained to use when finding concealed evidence. She stood rigid, focused on what appeared to be an ordinary section of drywall. The forensics team moved in with their equipment, quickly confirming a hidden compartment. Behind the false wall, they discovered what transformed the case from exploitation to something far darker: USB drives containing videos of Chambers interviewing his patients, gradually reshaping their perceptions through careful manipulation. More disturbing were the files documenting failed reclamations, cases where his subjects had been caught or had failed to retrieve the targeted children. They found detailed plans for manipulating a current patient named Elise Warner into believing her recently deceased infant was actually alive and being raised by a cousin in Seattle. The timing in his notes showed this was scheduled for next week. If Luna hadn't alerted to Jessica at the airport, in the interview room, Chambers sat with the practiced calm of someone accustomed to being the authority figure. His attorney, a sharp-suited woman from an expensive firm, had advised him to say nothing, but his ego proved stronger than her counsel. "This is all a tremendous misunderstanding," he began, his voice carrying the same soothing tones he likely used with patients. "Jessica Morris is a deeply disturbed individual whose delusions have unfortunately been treated as fact." Luna, lying quietly beside Rodriguez's chair, lifted her head at this statement, her ears forward with intense focus. "We found your storage unit, Dr. Chambers," Harmon replied evenly, "and your files. Rather detailed records for someone claiming misunderstanding." "Research materials," Chambers countered smoothly. "I'm writing a book on maternal grief and delusional reclamation. These women's stories are powerful examples of how the mind creates alternative realities to cope with loss." Luna stood suddenly, moving to position herself directly across from Chambers, her amber eyes fixed on him with unsettling intensity. It wasn't an aggressive move, but something more disconcerting: recognition. "Your dog seems poorly socialized," Chambers commented, a flicker of genuine unease crossing his face. "Military canines need proper transition training for civilian work." "Luna isn't military," Rodriguez corrected. "She's a survivor, found at a crime scene where a mother and baby were murdered. The interesting thing is how she somehow developed the ability to detect when children are in danger, particularly from adults pretending to be something they're not." "What happened to your son, Dr. Chambers?" Rodriguez asked quietly, following Luna's lead. "The court records show you lost custody 5 years ago, but there's no record of him after that." The change was immediate and dramatic. Chambers' composed facade cracked, revealing a flash of raw fury before he regained control. "I don't think so," Rodriguez replied calmly. "Because while we've been having this conversation, search teams have been executing warrants at your residence and office. I'm particularly interested in what they might find in the locked room in your basement, the one with the reinforced door." It was a calculated guess based on Luna's reaction, but Chambers' expression confirmed she'd hit the mark. The facade collapsed entirely, revealing something cold and calculating beneath. "You have no idea what you're interfering with," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "These women, I'm helping them reclaim what was taken. The system destroys families, declares mothers unfit, tears children from their natural bonds. My work restores the natural order. Where is your son, Dr. Chambers? She asked quietly. The smile that spread across his face contained no warmth. Safe. Beyond the reach of a system that separates families based on arbitrary standards of fitness. Each of these women, their rehearsals, preparations, learning from their failures to ensure my success. As if on cue, Rodriguez's phone buzzed with a message from the team at Chambers' residence. Hidden room located in basement, evidence of recent childcare. No child present, but signs suggest occupied within past 48 hours. The search for Dr. Chambers' son expanded across 3 states over the next 72 hours. Luna worked tirelessly alongside specialized search teams, her unique abilities proving invaluable as they narrowed their focus to a remote cabin in the East Texas piney woods. The operation unfolded with practiced precision. Within 20 minutes, tactical teams had secured the cabin and its occupant, a young woman who identified herself as Andrea Wesley, a nursing student hired through a private agency to care for Dr. Mitchell's son while he was traveling for work. The boy, found sleeping peacefully in a carefully decorated bedroom, appeared healthy and well cared for. Now awake, he watched the officers with solemn eyes that seemed too old for his 5 years. "Hello," Rodriguez said gently, kneeling to his eye level, while Luna sat patiently beside her. "My name is Melissa. This is Luna." The child's focus immediately shifted to the dog, something softening in his guarded expression. "She's pretty," he said quietly. "Is she nice?" "Very nice," Rodriguez assured him. "Would you like to pet her? She's especially trained to help children feel safe." Luna moved forward with gentle precision, lowering her head to make herself less intimidating. The boy reached out hesitantly, then with more confidence when Luna responded with a soft whine of encouragement. "What's your name?" Rodriguez asked as the child stroked Luna's fur. "Ethan," he replied. "But sometimes Dad calls me Andrew, for safety." "Is my dad in trouble?" the boy asked cautiously. "Sometimes grown-ups don't tell the truth," she said gently. "But we're going to find out exactly what happened and make sure you're with people who will take very good care of you." The subsequent investigation revealed the devastating truth. Ethan's mother hadn't abandoned him at all. Christina Chambers had been fighting desperately to regain custody of her son for over 3 years, hampered by falsified psychological evaluations and manipulated court records, all orchestrated by her ex-husband who had used his professional credentials to systematically discredit her. The reunion, when it finally happened under careful supervision at the Children's Advocacy Center, broke and mended Rodriguez's heart simultaneously. Christina fell to her knees when she saw Ethan, tears streaming down her face as she held out trembling arms. The boy hesitated, years of his father's conditioning evident in his uncertainty. Luna, still by Ethan's side, gently nudged him forward, a subtle encouragement that seemed to give him the confidence he needed. He took one step, then another, before finally running into his mother's embrace. "My baby!" Christina sobbed, holding him as if she might never let go. "My beautiful boy." As they watched Christina and Ethan begin the delicate process of rebuilding their relationship, Rodriguez reflected on the chain of events that had led to this moment. What had started with Luna's unexpected barking at an airport had uncovered a scheme of manipulation and exploitation spanning years, all because a traumatized dog had developed an extraordinary ability to sense when parent-child relationships weren't what they appeared to be. "Your partner's something special," Harmon observed, nodding toward Luna, who had settled into a watchful position near Ethan and his mother. "Most canines are trained to find specific threats, drugs, explosives, suspects, but Luna finds the truth. That's what trauma did for her," Rodriguez replied thoughtfully. "When she couldn't save that little girl 3 years ago, something fundamental changed in how she perceives the world. She's constantly looking for children in danger, constantly assessing the authenticity of the adults around them." "A blessing from a tragedy," Harmon mused. Later that evening, as Rodriguez completed her final report on the case, Luna dozed beside her desk, occasionally twitching in her sleep. The department had been buzzing all day with news of their success, with the chief personally stopping by to commend them on their work. "Good girl," she whispered, as Luna's eyes opened briefly, meeting hers with that familiar, intelligent gaze before drifting closed again. "You did good." Outside, the Texas night had settled over the city, stars emerging in the darkening sky. Tomorrow would bring new cases, new challenges, but for tonight, they had earned their rest. Because sometimes, Rodriguez reflected, watching her partner sleep, the deepest wounds create the most remarkable healing, not just for those who are rescued, but for the rescuers themselves. Have you ever wondered if animals can sense things that humans miss? The remarkable story of Luna and Officer Rodriguez reminds us that sometimes our four-legged companions perceive truths that remain invisible to us. Their extraordinary bond, forged through shared trauma and mutual healing, demonstrates how the deepest wounds can sometimes create the most remarkable abilities. What do you think gives service dogs like Luna their seemingly supernatural intuition? Is it their enhanced senses, their emotional intelligence, or something more profound that science hasn't yet explained? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If Luna's story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another incredible tale of canine heroism. Our channel is dedicated to sharing these remarkable stories that highlight the extraordinary abilities of service dogs and the brave officers who work alongside them. Check out our previous videos appearing on your screen now, from military canines who saved entire platoons to therapy dogs who helped traumatized children find their voices again. Each story reminds us that the bond between handlers and their canine partners often transcends training, becoming something truly extraordinary.